I know you've all made a sacrifice to be here, and it really means a lot to me as a Muslim American to see that people of other faiths are actually interested in hearing the Islamic point of view. Because I think as a Muslim American, the #1 challenge that I face growing up in the US is not discrimination or prejudice, but it just really the pervasive ignorance that exists about Islam. I feel that when people look at me, they don't really see me, but they see images that have formulated in their minds from glimpses of Hollywood movies, of women dressed in all black and living in tents, or people blowing up planes or whatnot. And so people, when they look at me, don't really see me for who I am, but see these images that have come to define Islam and Muslims for them. And so it really means a lot to me personally that all of you have come here to really hear from Muslim Americans and hear our own perspective. So from the onset, God was very central to my life. My belief in God, my unwavering conviction in the reality of the hereafter, of my ultimate meeting with God, is I think, the driving force of my everyday existence. One of the stereotypes and challenges I have to overcome regularly is that associated with wearing a headscarf. And obviously, I wore a headscarf when I was 12. I started wearing it when I was 12, and I was the only girl in my entire public high school with 2,200 students wearing a headscarf, and I ran track and I played soccer, and of course the question was, aren't you hot with that, or why do you wear that? But, and I'm sure as for all of you, you may be able to relate somewhat in terms of, your belief in God, that the priority for you is not what others think of you, but what God thinks of you. And I think, that definitely plays a large role in my behavior and the way I live.
It means absolutely nothing to me that Osama bin Laden is called a sheikh by someone, or that some terrorist somewhere is called a jihadist by someone. But when I think about it pragmatically, it's outrageous that we haven't gotten to the place yet where we understand that this is counterproductive counterterrorism, that we are doing the exact opposite of what we should be trying to do. When American evangelical movements are engaging in the process of, let's leave relief work aside, let's leave all of the wonderful and amazing things that evangelical communities in America do globally, but when they're engaging in this process of introducing others to the religion, which is a process that should be happening, because God says it should be happening in all of our religions. People should have that freedom to engage and debate and move their kind of place in terms of identity and their faith, etc., whenever they are ready to and whenever they feel like it. And the reality of the matter, whether we like it or not, is that Americans of faith abroad kind of have an amplified representation of America. And we need to engage an Abrahamic paradigm that's sourced in our relationships with God. It doesn't mean that there isn't a Judeo-Christian tradition. It doesn't mean that there isn't a uniqueness to the connections between Judaism and Christianity. But when we lay it all out, and we take all our little post-it notes and put them all down and, get ready for the exam, we're going to find out that there's a lot more in common between the three than there is just with this kind of elite crowd of the Judeo-Christian experience by itself. Evangelical Christians need to condemn what is to be condemned, just like Muslims need to condemn what is to be condemned. And an intellectual and emotional honesty with ourselves as individuals and with ourselves as communities and amongst ourselves as differing communities within a nation. We need to be honest with ourselves when we see those that come from our camp engage in hate speech. And I think there was once a day when Hadia and I would have come here to, sling at you 15 names of people that we were trying to get in a fight with in the public square, but I'm not going to do that. I think 4 years of Washington has taught me not to do that. But you know the television channels. I mean, you know the television stations, and you know their morning broadcasts, and you know how they talk about Islam, and you know how they talk about Muslims. And it's malignant, like a malignant tumor. It's malignant. And that will metastasize into the American fabric if we don't choke it today and kill it. Just as the malignant ideology of Muslim extremists is beginning to metastasize into the fabric of Muslim societies. So there needs to be, in my mind, a faith-based push by evangelical Christians to say no more amongst the haters, no more amongst the folks that have hundreds of thousands of people listening to them, and what they are preaching is hate and disunity and the disenfranchisement of a component of America. And I say that with love. I say that with love, and I say it with an appreciation for how difficult that is.
Personal interaction does a lot to break down and shatter a lot of the barriers that exist, because a lot of the fear and the mistrust and misunderstanding really stems from ignorance. And on both ends, on both sides, I mean, there's prejudice and hatred, unfortunately, on both ends. When you go to the Muslim world, I also confront this reality sometimes when I speak to people in Jordan and Syria, and they're shocked. They're always shocked to learn that I wear my scarf in America. And they have this image that Americans would be like chasing me down and like beating me up, and and I have to explain to them that actually Americans have a great deal of respect for religious freedom, for your individual freedom to do and live your life the way you want to live it. And so the misperceptions exist on both ends, but I think in America we're really challenged with this growth of Islamophobia, really, to put it bluntly, the fear of Islam, the vilification of Islam in public. And I think what's not helping is sort of the internet right now, the fact that you have these bloggers that are completely exploiting, I think, the current climate of legitimate fear to make individuals scared of the Muslims sitting right next to them, in the airport, in their classroom, in the workplace. And this is not going to help us move forward. It's not going to help us solve the problems of security that our country is facing. And it's not going to help us build a brighter future for America. So I think the first step is to try to meet someone that you are supposed to be afraid of. And I on some level, I sympathize. I understand that some people have never met a Muslim before, and all they see about Muslims are these images of people beheading others, of people calling for quote-unquote jihad in their skewed perception of what that actually stands for. And so it's natural that people are afraid, but I think Muslim Americans have a responsibility to reach out to others, and when you confront individuals like the people you mentioned, to maybe help them meet a Muslim if you can, help them interact with a Muslim, because I feel like that goes a long way.
On 9/11, the rage filled me toward Muslims, because the only thing we had to see was the media's version of what Islam was being portrayed as. And today, I still carry some of that. And I ask your forgiveness for that rage.
Hey, can I get a hug, man? From God bless you. God bless you.
Of course, we forgive you. The danger is in dehumanizing the other, or in attaching a greater value to one human life over another human life because of ethnicity or religion or nationality. I mean, I think we have to remember that before any other identity, we are human beings. Before anything else, we all share the inevitable experiences of being born into this world, and at one day leaving this world and facing God. And that is something we all share in common.